This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Nation Pop Experience. Welcome to today's edition of the movie review of the day. I am Andy Atherton back here with you. Going to be reviewing a new movie, a current movie playing in theaters recently released, and I am talking about Minions and Monsters. I have to tell you, I love this franchise. Here's the thing too, and I love how things happen kind of organically. The Minions have become this huge thing, right? A huge pop culture phenomenon. And they're a minor character. They're adorable. Yes, they lend themselves perfectly to marketing. How could you not love them with their silly language and their personalities? And they're just fun. And I kind of love when stuff like that happens when, a scratch, the guy who voices the director of the movie, Pierre Coffin. And Minion language is kind of like a made up language of like, there's some Italian in there, some German, some gibberish, some English in there, but it's kind of like how, some of the Pixar people would voice, some of their characters, like the late Joe Ranft. He was a Pixar, one of the brain trusts there, before he passed away. And he voiced like Heimlich, and he voiced, Wheezy, the penguin. How Brad Bird voiced Edna Mode, or the guy who I think he was one of the directors of Bolt, who directed Rhino the guinea pig, or how Bob Peterson voiced Doug. Like, these are all people that were involved in the production, and sometimes they just did a scratch track, or maybe they couldn't find it. And that's how one thing I love about like when a character like that hits, because it's not some big celebrity. It's just a very funny, creative, endearing character. And that's what the Minions are. It is hard to tell them apart, but once you get to know them, they have distinct personalities. And there's a few that we've come to love, like Kevin and Stuart. And I'm trying to remember the third one. But in this movie, actually, it takes place before the Minions that we know from most of the other movies. So let's go to the logline for Minions and Monsters. So it follows the Minions in 1920s Hollywood as they search for frightening creatures for their monster movie. They partner with a green creature, and they must save the planet after unleashing monsters. So it stars the voice talents of Pierre Coffin, who I mentioned, voiced the Minions. Trey Parker is Goomy. He is that little kind of monstery thing. He's got the little green guy, basically. Very cute character. Also very bad. Allison Janney voices Olivia. George Lucas voices George Lucas. Christoph Waltz voices Max. Jeff Bridges voices both Frank and Elwood, the brothers who run the movie studio. Jesse Eisenberg voices Dort, Zoe Dutch, Debbie, Bobby Moynihan, Phillips, Phil Lamar, Howard, and lots of other very, very funny people. People's voices you hear a lot of times in movies, they show up often in the animated films. So, like I said, I love the Minions franchise, and this movie, and it's kind of silly, right? But it's very funny because the Minions find themselves. They basically this group of Minions were trying to find masters to serve, like evil masters, right? And our main two characters that we get introduced to are James and Henry, and it's really their story that we're kind of watching, because they're the main ones. They add a couple of other ones in this, but there's a lot of movie references. And what's also cool is that you don't need to have seen any other Minion stuff, any other Despicable. Yeah, you kind of have a little familiarity with them and how they are and their acts and all that stuff. But this could be a standalone thing. and because it takes place in a different time period. And there's definitely a love letter to this era, this very early era of movies. Like it's the silent film era is coming to an end here. And there are a lot of references to Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, the Keystone Cops, like a lot of those are in there, and there's very subtle Frank Capra references. I believe it was a Metropolis reference, but it's very funny how they keep finding these masters and they end up killing them by mistake. And then they think they find another master. Turns out it's a movie that is being shot, and they end up becoming these stars and stars of these movies. But unfortunately, what happens is, this happened to a bunch. This happened to Chaplin. This kind of happened to Buster Keaton too. The silent film stars, when the talkies came around, when motion pictures had sound, guys started getting vocals to it. They kind of they started to have downturns, and a lot of them, their careers ended because they did not have the voices for it. They couldn't transition to the talkies. And I know Charlie Chaplin, he did very few work after the silent film era ended. But so this basically is told like a flashback, because Allison Janney's character, she's a film history museum guide, and she gives a tour, and then she tells the story of James and Henry. And there's also a lot of nods to H.P. Lovecraft in this, like Howard and Phillips, the two big monsters that are freed by Goomy. They are named after H.P. Lovecraft. Dort is an alien robot that sees minions as their potential boss. He is a parody and homage to the character Gort from the 1951 film The Day the Earth Stood Still. Goomy is a cute Cthulhu, I think it's pronounced. It's a physical cosmic entity created by H.P. Lovecraft, and it was one of his entities, whose full name is Gary Orcam Oliver Magma Ichabod the Deceiver. That's a bit of a mouthful. And then there's our main minions, right? We have James, a short, one-eyed, blue-eyed minion who loves to make art and develops a passion for filmmaking. We have Henry, an average height, two-eyed, and also blue-eyed minion who is James's lifelong best friend. Then we have Ed, a tall, wide, and deaf minion who communicates using sign language. And then we have Dick, a tall, one-eyed minion who is the leader of the Grand Minion tribe, who's kind of what his name says. Again, look, I'm not going to go into it really, but it's very Hollywood. It's kind of old Hollywood. It's very fun. You can shut your brain off for a little bit and just enjoy it. So like I said, the sound film, technology, the minions aren't able to adapt because their language is incomprehensible, and they end up getting fired. Spoilers, sorry, I apologize for not mentioning that before, but there are spoilers, and they end up fighting these giant monsters, and we get another monster that gets introduced later, who I won't mention because I don't want to ruin it if anybody is listening to this and hasn't seen it yet. But all in all, it is a fun time at the movie. Do you need to go out to the movie theater to see it? No, you don't. But, we went to see it because we just love the Minions, and they make us laugh. With a lot of stuff going on in the world, sometimes you just need to go and be entertained and just have some silliness in your life. And that's what the Minions do. They are a ton of fun. And I can't really say anything bad, about them. They are, they're just a comedy vehicle, right? There's so much they could do with them. There's so much potential. They're kind of like the Muppets in a way where you can put them in so many different situations, so many stories told as like a Minion story that it would work. And the fact that, they also appear in the Despicable Me movies, where that's where they got their start. And they can go back and forth between the Despicable Me movies and their own kind of movies that are set apart from that main story. It's pretty cool. So all in all, I would say it's a very fun movie. Really the best movies of this summer so far have been the animated movies. Look, I loved Masters of the Universe. I I was mid on Disclosure Day. I didn't think Supergirl was that good. There have been other movies that have been entertaining, but this and Toy Story 5 so far have been the two highest spots of the summer so far. So I definitely will recommend it. You watch it at some point. Okay. Yeah, I know I didn't dive too far into it because there's really not a lot of plot to this movie. It's just the minions being minions, but this time it's set in old Hollywood in the 1920s, 1930s era. So it's very cool. For me as a film fan, I love it. So, and the voice cast, like I said, does a great job. Okay. So hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope it gave you, if you weren't thinking about it, you're on the fence, go see it. You can wait till it comes on video. I'm sure it'll be on Peacock first because they're owned by Universal, I believe. So keep an eye out for that, probably in a few months. All right. So have a great week. Have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great evening. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.